We all make mistakes. We all have to learn to live with our failures and admit sometimes when things are stupid. I, like anyone else, I've made my fair share of mistakes, I've asked my fair share of questions, and I've had my fair share of slip ups. And yeah, it happens to anyone. However, I thought I'd reveal one particularly famous one that's kind of etched into my family's memory. Little bit of a background on this. The year must have been about 2009, so kind of about 9 years ago, 9 to 10 years ago. It was the summer, I think, of 2009, and I know it was 2009 because I remember one of my family members was playing Angry Birds on their phone, which at that time it was still quite a new game. It hadn't yet become the mainstream success that everyone thought it would be. And well, we were on a cruise. Yeah, not that unusual. People go on cruises all the time. And we were sitting in the theatre area because kind of in those days it might still happen with cruises, but it was a situation where you would a few days before or the day before you would kind of sign up which kind of activities or places that you wanted to go when the boat was in a specific port. So and then when that day arrived, you would go to the relevant theatre where you would meet the people in charge of that activity or that place, and they would kind of show you where to go or direct you to the nearest bus or whatever. So we were kind of sitting there waiting to be given the relevant information, and I was thinking about something that I had heard on the TV. Now, I want to stress here that it was something that I had misheard. That's how all of this ended up. It was something that I had misheard. The event in question had happened on the TV, and it wasn't in a science show or anything, it was in a sitcom. And in the sitcom, there was one scene where a character had a sweet inside his mouth, and he said something along the lines of, well, he said exactly, the sun is 92% hydrogen. That's important. That's the important bit. However, I had misheard it. So kind of everyone's just kind of sitting there with their families, kind of waiting to receive the instructions for the day, and I just turned to my family and asked, "Is salmon 92% hydrogen? Salmon the fish?" This apparently caught everyone quite off guard. Just I thought, just the thought of kind of a young child, a teenager, asking such an odd question. They first had to work out what I had just said, what I had actually heard, and then kind of work out or translate what I had exactly heard into something that would make a little more sense. Just they had found it such an odd question, done at such an odd time, just out of the blue, and yeah. Now for a bit, kind of this would have been around 2009, as I said, and it would have been around the time of I probably finished my first year in high school and kind of between year 7 and year 8, basically. Now, I'll admit I was the kind of person who would ask odd questions at odd times. I was that kind of kid really growing up. I had a lot of weird questions, and yeah, sometimes they could be sorted out fairly good. But this one just out of the blue, and it's kind of stuck with everyone for the first few years. Just that one moment of just sitting there, waiting, and then be asked, "Is salmon 92% hydrogen?" Yeah, we eventually sorted out that what the character had actually said was the sun is 92% hydrogen, which, looking back, makes a lot more sense. Kind of a big burning ball of gas that we're all circling around. It does make a bit more sense for the sun to be 92% hydrogen as opposed to a fish to be 92% hydrogen. But yeah, that one has kind of stuck with me for a while. Not that I particularly wanted it to all the time, but kind of when I've in the past, ever since then, well, certain times when I've occasionally asked odd questions, which I don't do as much anymore. I've learned since then, but yeah, they may remark, well, it's not quite as weird as the salmon incident, but yeah, it's pretty weird. But as I said before, you've got to accept your shortcomings in life. That was a time when evidently I just asked a weird question at a weird time, and it just caused everyone quite out of the blue. People laugh about it apparently, but yeah, I just got to accept I made a mistake, and apparently I gave a few people a laugh, which is quite funny when I think about it. I've often had a tendency of when I try to be funny, I end up not being really funny, giving more tortured puns. But sometimes when I'm trying not to be funny, I end up making people laugh, which yeah, I don't know why, but yeah. So there's particularly the story of my weird question moment, the one embarrassing moment that's kind of stuck with me for several years. But hey, you gotta accept it and move on. I'm sure there are a lot more embarrassing stories than mine that you can probably find around YouTube. Anyway, till next time, see you.